Welcome back to Without Shortcuts. Today we're going to go ahead and throw together some chocolate lava cakes.
This recipe does require a few things, so in order for your lava cakes to come out just right, you're going to want to head down there, hit the thumbs up, and right over there and give us a quick subscribe.
This is the final video in our perfect date night meal series. And obviously you're not going to have a perfect date night meal without a great dessert to finish the whole thing off. So we really debated on what to use here for our dessert for this particular meal. We wanted something that was luxurious but not over the top. We wanted something that was sophisticated but relatively simple to make. And we really found that the chocolate lava cake really fit the bill for that.
This is one of my favorite desserts to make. The end result that you come out with is pretty impressive, but the time and effort that goes into it is actually pretty minimal.
So to get this started, we're going to go ahead and prepare a couple of ramekins. You could also do this in a muffin tin. If you had a 12-count muffin tin, you just prepare 6 of those. That's going to be a little smaller portion, so that's going to adjust the cooking time. But for right now, we're just going to do this in the ramekins. So we're going to start with just a little bit of non-stick cooking spray. Coat that up. And then, just for a little extra flourish, we're going to take some cocoa powder. And we're just going to dust that into the ramekin so that the outside of our lava cakes has a nice cocoa-y finish.
All right, same thing as if you were going to flour a cake pan. This just adds a little bit extra flavor to it. It's real good. Now the other thing with this recipe being so quick and easy, you're also going to want to go ahead and preheat your oven now to 425 degrees. The next thing that we're going to do is chop up our chocolate. You want to use a good quality baking chocolate for something like this. Don't use chocolate chips. They've got an emulsifier or a coating on them. They don't melt as well as a good baking chocolate does. So we're just going to coarsely chop this just so that it melts a little bit faster. All right. Now this doesn't need to be chopped super fine. Just a nice coarse chop just so that it melts easier once we get it into the pan. Next step is we're going to melt our butter and chocolate together. Now you could do this in the microwave, but number one, that's a shortcut and we don't do that around here. Number two, it's really easy to scorch your chocolate if you heat it in the microwave. We're going to go ahead and use a double boiler. So I've got a pot of water on the stove with about 1 inch of water in it that's at a good simmer. And then we're just going to stick a bowl right on top there with the butter in it. We'll go ahead and dump the chocolate in. It's a nice gentle way to slowly heat and melt your chocolate together. You just want to make sure that you don't have so much water in there that the bowl is going to actually come into contact with the water. From here, we're just going to give it an occasional stir and let it melt. Our chocolate and butter are melted. They're mixed together nice and smooth. We're just going to let them sit on the counter here to cool off just a bit so that when we mix everything together, we don't cook our eggs.
So the next thing we're going to do then is just mix our dry ingredients together. So a little confectioner's sugar going into a little bit of flour. Confectioner's sugar, by the way, is just powdered sugar. It's nothing that fancy. And then just a tiny little bit of salt. We're going to whisk those together so they're fairly homogeneous. And then in one more bowl, we're going to whisk up our eggs. I got it. Uh-huh. 2 whole eggs, and then we're going to separate out and do 2 egg yolks. Nope, I'm doing this totally wrong. And we're just going to whisk those together until they're nice and smooth. All right, and there we go. Those are ready.
Our next step is we're just going to add our dry ingredients and our eggs right into the chocolate.
Now right here you want to make sure your chocolate is warm and melted but not hot, because if you cook those eggs when you add them in there, you're going to have a mess and there is no coming back from that mistake.
All right, everything is whisked together, and then we're just gonna spoon this right into our prepared ramekins.
You don't want to get these too full because you want to have some distance between the rim of the cooking vessel and the top of the cake so that you can flip them over when they come out of the oven. And as he gets them finished and ready, we're just going to put them on one baking sheet so we can slide them all into the oven and take them out all together. Now, like we said, depending on how you're preparing these, that might be a different cooking time. In the ramekins, we're going to slide them in there for 10 to 12 minutes. And if you're doing this in the muffin tin, it's going to be a little smaller portion. You're going to want to cook those for, or bake them probably, for around 8 to 10 minutes. So make sure you're making that adjustment because this is one of those recipes that is definitely going to be better if it's baked for the correct amount of time. If you overbake these, you're not going to get that nice lava effect.
And then those are just going to go into the oven. All right, so our cakes are out of the oven. They're set around the edges. In the middle, it looks a little wet, but it's not. It's just barely set. It's a little bit jiggly, so these should be just about perfect.
So this might be hard to understand, but when these come out of the oven, they're going to be hot. But that's important. You need them to be hot so that they come out of the ramekins correctly. But you want to let them rest for just like a minute to cool off just a tiny bit. And then once they have, what you're going to do is you're just going to take a plate and you're going to put the plate straight down on top of the ramekin, and then using some kind of protection, you're going to take maybe and just flip them over, and then in theory just going to pull it out of the ramekin like that.
Awesome.
All right.
Now you can serve these with vanilla ice cream. You could do a little bit of whipped cream. All we're going to do is dust them with a good helping of powdered sugar.
See what we did?
All right.
So it looks like we did something right. We got this to come out just the way we wanted it. I mean, there's certainly more complicated ways of making a ganache and putting it in the middle after it's frozen and cooking it, but this works just as well, and you can see you get exactly the desired effect. But we'll never know until we actually give it a try, so
That's right.
let's see what we did.
Man, it's hot, it's gooey, it's chocolatey. I mean, I've made these before just putting flour on the ramekins like you do with a cake. Putting the cocoa in there makes a huge difference.
It does. Just gives you that little tiny bit of bitterness on the outside of it to complement the sweetness.
Mm-hmm. And just deepens the chocolate flavor.
Yeah.
Oh man, so good.
It was a great cake. It was so easy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and a fantastic way to finish off your date night meal.
Absolutely. That being said, we appreciate the fact that you guys stuck with us through this whole thing. It's a lot of food to prepare. It is, something you have to really commit to. But if you put this whole thing together, you're certainly going to impress somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to top it off with this lava cake and that presentation, to be able to open it up with that nice oozing center, you've definitely done something right.
All right. Well, give this a try. Let us know if you got through the whole thing and did it yourself. We love to hear stuff like that. Tag us on Instagram. You know what? Follow us on Twitter. Let us know how it went. And until next time, skip the shortcuts.
Thanks, guys.